And what's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Wrestling Mat. I am Matt Camp, as you may have guessed from the name of the show. But sometimes people need to be explained that. But hopefully you do not. However, by the way, as I'm already reading a very lively chat today, and thank you for that. The most interactive pro wrestling show out there. It is the Wrestling Mat. Check it out at thewrestlingmatshow.com. Become a Mat member. Listen, this is not going to be the Joe Hendry Show, but on NXT last night, it certainly seems like they are riding that bandwagon and continuing to ride that bandwagon, as they will do into No Mercy this weekend when he challenges Ethan Page for the NXT Championship. Think about that sentence right there. Just a few months ago, if I said, oh, yeah, the August pay-per-view for NXT is going to be Ethan Page as the NXT champion taking on Joe Hendry, who was like the digital media champion a couple of months ago. That's where things are at right now, which is the world of professional wrestling, and honestly, that's a wild thing. We're going to get into Joe Hendry. We're going to get into Ethan Page. We're going to get into NXT, which I watched last night and doesn't feel like it has the same kind of juice as maybe Bash in Berlin does. Certainly not the same kind of juice that All In did coming off the weekend. We're going to get into AEW Dynamite as well on the show today because they have a massive follow-up show in Champaign, Illinois, the hometown of Tony Khan. Does that set the stage for an announcement everybody's been waiting for? Is it ready to go? Is it time to talk about the TV deal? That's coming up a little bit later on in the show today. What's going on out there to Franklin, who has joined us from other activities? What's up to Phil? What's up to B-May? B-May yesterday, speaking of a Mat member, had a great private Zoom with him because he is a Mat member of the highest level. He is at the Mat Eventer level, and he got the private Zoom for this week. Had a great discussion with him, and guess what? If you weren't part of it and you want to be part of one of those next month, you can by becoming a Mat member. So for this week, by the way, alone, here's what we've done. We did an Ask Me Anything on Monday for members only. We did the private Zoom yesterday. B-May, I enjoyed it. Hope you did too. Right after this show, as soon as we are done, we are going to watch the Retro Raw from Germany from nearly 30 years ago with Owen versus Bulldog for the European Championship for the very first winner. That is all coming up, though, a little bit later on today, right after the show. But you got to be a Mat member. Now, I want to tell you this. A lot of you are at the base level, right above Todd. Hello, Todd. But we had said that the Raw watch party, the retro watch party, was going to be for the top tier. Here's what we're going to do. Very special because our good friend Nerdy Dude gave out a lot of gift subscriptions at that base level. All Mat members get to be part of the retro watch party right after this episode is finished. We're going to have a whole new link, different stream coming up. We're going to watch that Raw from Germany. It's about a 90-minute show. Please join us if you can. The link is there right now. Make sure you save it. As soon as this show goes off the air, give me like 90 seconds. I'll flip over, and then we will watch that Raw watch party. So here's the thing. For all you that have been gifted, it's only $4 more U.S. dollars to become a Matt Camper level. That's the mid-level. If you go to the Mat Event level, $22 more. I follow you on social. We just finished the Zoom yesterday. Our first quarterly special merch will be going out next month, and the private watch along with me chosen by a member at random. We're giving that to you if you're a member right now at any of these levels, but it's a special for this month. But if you want to continue on with that, you can upgrade to the Matt Camper level. You can upgrade to the Mat Event level. We would love to have you aboard. Any of your support really matters here to me and to everybody here at the WrestlingMatShow.com. Join down below. Upgrade your membership if you're at that base level. And make sure you're with us because in addition to that, we're going to be watching Bash at Berlin here on Saturday. Yes, that is our watch party for this weekend, so you could join us for that. And listen, those are all the perks that you get here at the WrestlingMatShow.com. Plenty more bonus content. Now, one other announcement I want to make. We're going to have another one, I promise. It might happen during the show. I'm literally waiting for an email confirmation to say I can say it. If it comes through, I'll say it. But one announcement. For tomorrow's show, I am on the road. I am traveling. However, you will not miss an episode. You are getting a brand new, fresh episode of the Wrestling Mat tomorrow, and it is a special 30th anniversary retrospective episode because 30 years ago tomorrow, August 29th, 1994, no, I'm not talking about Undertaker versus Undertaker. What I'm going to talk about, though, is the greatest cage match of all time between WWF champion Bret Hitman Hart and the King of Hearts, Owen Hart, It is magic, but not only are we going to be talking about that match, which will celebrate a 30th anniversary tomorrow, I am going to take you through that entire feud, which began at Survivor Series 1993, lasted to the next Survivor Series, and honestly, beyond that, it is my favorite feud in the history of professional wrestling because of what it did, and it's one of the only, and maybe the only, family feud, brother versus brother, that hit all the notes and got to the levels that it needed to. I am going to take you through all of that timeline tomorrow on the very special edition of the Wrestling Match. It won't be live tomorrow, but you are getting that from me tomorrow. 30 years ago, SummerSlam 1994, we are going to be celebrating Brett versus Owen in that steel cage. It's unbelievable. I'll tell you right now, it's worth going to watch after you're done here with us today. Before I take you through the entire timeline, why that story means so much to me, some intricacies, some comments from Brett about it that you may not know, Owen's promos during the time, all of those things we're going to cover tomorrow. And then back on Friday for a normal live episode. We'll obviously have a lot of fallout from Dynamite. We will preview Bash at Berlin heading into SmackDown. SmackDown getting, or Berlin getting a SmackDown on Friday night. All of that is coming your way, so make sure you check it out. Franklin D. Blue, thanks for taking some time away from your significant other and becoming a member. Welcome to that at the Matt Camper level. Hello. Thank you, Franklin D. Bluth. Absolutely. Nerdy dude. Always good to have you here. And yes, a little announcement made. I will be hosting a special table talk at the world-famous Kowloon's in the Boston area coming up in December with none other than now the former, I shouldn't probably say this, but he is the former American champion. He's the longest reigning AEW champion of all time, MJF. Go to our social media to hear more about that at Wrestling Matt 23 at the Matt Camp. But I'll be hosting that at Kowloon's in December. December, I believe 19th is the date. MJF will be in the house. So will I, asking him the questions. And him and I go back quite a ways. We go back to the indie days before people knew who MJF was, his days in CZW, his days in House of Hardcore, making a name for himself up and down the Northeast Coast. And now one of the biggest stars in wrestling. And we will be together at Kowloon's coming up in December, right before Christmas. So go check that out. There will be meet and greets. We're going to be doing Q&A with him. Hopefully answers my questions. But we'll see how it goes. But make sure you go check that out. And honestly, that doesn't happen without this show having success. So I thank all of you for your support. If you're not subscribed, please go do so at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. Turn those notifications on, especially you members out there, because you don't want to miss when we're going live, and we will go live with a second episode as soon as this is done today to watch Raw from Germany from nearly 30 years ago. The same Raw you may have seen on SmackDown in that outstanding piece narrated by Natalia. We are going to be watching that episode right here at thewrestlingmatchshow.com as soon as we finish with this live episode. So that is all that's going on as you're watching it today. You got some comments you want to get heard. You want some questions you want to get answered. You want to start a discussion. The best way to do that and send you to the front of the line are the super chats. They get featured. It's another way to support our show. So as we're talking about NXT today, as we're talking about No Mercy, as we're talking about NXT, you got something you want to say and you want me to talk about it and make sure it doesn't get ignored, super chats. That is the way to go. That gets the conversation going, sends conversations in different directions. But AEW stuff coming on later. Let's talk about NXT last night. Let's talk about that. Look, we got into a lot of NXT. The go-home show for No Mercy. Now, this was taped last week. This is a taped episode. I don't know if that's to get extra practice because there's a lot of that going on heading into PLEs for NXT shows, but they're out in Colorado this weekend, which I do think plays into one of the matches. But let's run down the show here. And I'm going to kind of jump all over the place, but, we put it in there. NXT is the Joe Hendry Show. NXT is running on Joe Hendry power. Yes, there are plenty of titles on the line. I mean, right now, as you look at the No Mercy card, the NXT Championship's on the line. The Women's NXT Championship is on the line. The Women's North American title's on the line. The Men's North American title's on the line. The tag titles are on the line. And you have Wesley against Zachary Wentz. That's the card. But I got to tell you, it really feels like NXT needs Joe Hendry right now. Great for Joe. who has, if you don't know, and go back and check it out in the archives of thewrestlingmatchshow.com, he was a recent guest on the show and exclusively revealed to us here at the Wrestling Mat that he is training at the Performance Center, which certainly turned some heads, raised some eyebrows. A TNA contracted wrestler is training at the Performance Center? Well, he told us that. And obviously, NXT is on board. They believe in Joe Hendry, not in just gimmick, but based on the way they are pushing him. And how much is this about catching lightning in a bottle, not missing the boat? It is a very tough thing to balance. TNA decided, here's what the deal is. He's not going to win that six-pack. He is not going to become the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. We are going to have him pin Moose. We are going to have that happen, but we're going to make this, part of the Josh Alexander turn, which has led to, obviously, his title matches, multiple, with Nick Nemeth, who became the TNA champion at their last pay-per-view at Slammiversary. However, on the NXT and WWE side of things, Joe Hendry is getting the shove. Not just the push, he is getting the full-on shove. And you know what? I often talk about how NXT is developmental. I think we saw that on display more than a few times last night, and we will get into that. But they're also heading into a brand new television deal with CW. And a lot of people have asked me, I've seen it in the comments, I've seen it live in the chat here, you guys have brought it up, people have sent me tweets about this. Is NXT gearing up for that? How is the show going to change? We know they're going on the road the first 2 weeks with Chicago and St. Louis with CM Punk and Randy Orton showing up. All of that is to load up for those first big shows. But what is CW expecting? What kind of changes, if any, will WWE make to the NXT brand, to make to the show? It is still developmental. I will keep saying that. It is developmental on television. What will happen? What changes? Does anything change? Are they where they want to be? What are the expectations coming off USA Network? It's still developmental. You're seeing bad acting. You're seeing people work a little slower at times. You can see a big divide between people like Joe Hendry and Ethan Page and a lot of other people on the show. You could see the terrible acting of people whose names you don't even know on that show. I have always said that NXT seems to exist in its own universe. And Tony D'Angelo can get called away from a match to be brought to his restaurant or whatever where Obafemi is eating at his table. But it is still a show that they want to perform well, that they want to perform at a high level, that they want it to be a draw. And yes, they would like those numbers to be Dynamite. And for everybody who goes, they don't care. They care. I promise you they care. They don't have to care, but they care. It's why they're loading up. It's part of the reason they're loading up one of those CW Tuesdays when Dynamite is going up against them because of their schedule. It happens. It's fine. That's what it is. But Joe Hendry and Ethan Page are head and shoulders above everybody else, at least in the men's division right now. Outside of Trick Williams, we'll get to Trick in a second. Will Joe Hendry be the first non-contracted wrestler to win a WWE title in this new era? Is that a possibility? Are we going to see that happen? Would that make TNA look bad if NXT puts a title on him, on Joe Hendry, before they do? How would that go? On Monday Night Raw, Randy Orton, as we talked about yesterday, made his entrance and seems to kind of be in his own world. Like it's almost like, oh, that's Randy the human being, not Randy the wrestler. And he's taking it in and he's signing autographs and he points out a Joe Hendry sign. You can see him mouth, I believe in Joe Hendry. Will they make a point to get Randy Orton and Joe Hendry on the screen at the same time? Will they do that with CM Punk in Chicago? Ultimate rubs. I think it'll happen. I think it should happen. When you have those two guys and that caliber of talent on those shows where they're far more established and far bigger stars and you're running big venues, you want to rub them up against as many people as you can. You want that moment of CM Punk with Joe Hendry. You want that moment of Randy Orton with Joe Hendry. You want that moment of Trick Williams. And Trick right now kind of feels like he's in this weird purgatory because it was, he loses the title, right, to Ethan Page and something he wasn't involved in the finish. And, he's FaceTiming Ilya Dragunov, and I got to find my way. And he's fighting, him and Pete Dunne is happening next week, and he's battling to get back to the title, and he's trying to find his way. And finding his way is being buddy-buddy with Joe Hendry? Finding his way is Ava naming him the special guest referee for that match. Finding his way is counting a pin on Ethan Page, which I thought they already did like 9 times at Oro Mensa. So Joe can hold up the title and do this, and then Trick just kind of dances along with it. And in any other circumstance, you would look at this and go, oh, Trick's turning heel. They're telegraphing a heel turn. But who wants to see Trick Williams as a heel? I want to see a frustrated Trick Williams who's got to battle his way back, but a little bit too happy to be there, Trick Williams. And if a heel turn comes, all of that is at least justified. I just don't think that a Trick Williams heel turn makes a lot of sense. It's a little confusing right now for a guy who is champion that seems kind of happy to be there. Now, as we talk about Joe Hendry, as I was watching, I went, another concert? Didn't we just do this? Not to say that like Joe's not talented. This is not a Joe thing. This is not a knock on Joe at all. But to me, like, you just did this. You got to be careful to not run this stuff into the ground. Old era WWE would run stuff into the ground. That's why, like I said, the Corey and Cole thing with the Yeats and all that. B. May and I talked about that in a Zoom yesterday. It's like, that don't make it not cool. Don't make the old guy announcer do the Yeet thing and then it looks corny. Don't run Joe Hendry's gimmicks into the ground. He's talented in other ways. And sure, Ethan Page would interrupt it. It was not as over as the one on Gallus and Coffee and all that. Ethan interrupts. He says what he's going to say. You can't have this concert here, blah, blah, blah. Ava says, because of your actions, Trick Williams is the ref. And then Joe hits his finish. And Trick counts it. And someone better tip Trick off. Because remember, Trick is still fairly new to the business. All things considered. Someone's got to tell Trick that when you count to 3, you have to look at the shoulders. Because he literally looked the other way. He's looking this way, and the pin's happening over here. 1, and they come up for it, whatever. Trick was too happy. Trick, there was the shot of Trick and Joe next to each other. And Joe, after getting the pin, the visual pin, holds up the title and starts doing the thing. I hate the idea of a guy who hasn't won the title holding up the title. It's like touching the Stanley Cup. I hate when the NBA Finals has those promos and the two teams who are playing, you show all the players holding the Larry O'Brien trophy, even if they haven't won it before. Hate it, hate it, hate it. Don't touch it until you've won it. Don't pose with it. You could pick it up and hand it back. Drop it on his prone body. Don't pose with it. You haven't won yet. I don't want to see that moment yet. But they did it. And Joe's doing the thing. Like I would like to have seen that be the first time Joe did that. Imagine Joe wins on Sunday, and the first time he picks up the title, it goes right into that part of his song. The place would have been going nuts. And they could still do that on Sunday. But I think it would have been better to see that for the first time on Sunday. Anyway, they do it. And Trick gives him a little bit of a side eye, but it doesn't last long. And he kind of looks and he's like, all right, I guess I'm dancing too. But like he was into it. If it was more of a, and stayed there for a second, okay. Instead, he dances right along with it. And now you have a baby-faced ref celebrating with the baby-faced challenger to take on the heel champion. Any other time, I would say it's telegraphing a Trick Williams heel turn. It's too much stacked in Joe's favor. And that Trick should get pissed off about that. But Trick shouldn't be a heel. He shouldn't. That seems to be like a crutch he's mad because he didn't get what he wanted, or things didn't go his way, or he's been dealing with the people too long. We turned him. It's the Roxanne turn's all about. Why did I listen? Why was I a fan? Blah, blah, blah. Now I'm a mean girl. A heel turn, like if you just take the names away and you just write down babyface A takes on heel champ A and babyface B is the referee. And here's all the actions that happen. I'd go, oh, well, the referee is going to cost the babyface the title. And that could happen. It definitely could still happen. But you don't want to turn Trick Williams heel. I don't think that makes sense. Maybe it just adds intrigue to the match. Maybe it's so obvious that it's adding intrigue. What do you guys think? I see a lot of Franklin just said NXT's biggest babyface, not named Joe Hendry, is Trick. A natural babyface. I don't think he's in NXT purgatory as a whole. I think he's kind of in, I don't think it's about him being in purgatory between NXT and Raw. I think it's, well, he lost. He's got to get that fire back. And at the end of the show, they had Pete Dunne watch from the aisle, and he had cut the promo with Kelly during the show. And he's like, hey, Trick, blah, blah, blah. You might not make it next week when they're facing off yet. So they've set that up. They already announced that for next week. Is that part of it? See, that's where they could go. Does Pete take out Trick during the match? Is it a ref bump with a special guest referee? Is Trick going to count the pin for Joe and Pete takes him out? Do we spin that off into Joe Hendry and Pete Dunne? Possibly. That seems to make sense. Because the babyface should always call it down the middle. And Ethan really hasn't done anything to Trick. Not really. They've had a feud. Trick beat him, and then Ethan won in a match where Trick didn't get pinned. Ethan won by mistake. So maybe Pete Dunne is the real wild card of this. And it's not about a Trick heel turn. Because once again, a Trick heel turn also wouldn't make sense because he's got a match with Pete next week. You're going to turn Trick heel on Sunday to then have him face Pete on Tuesday. No. It is interesting they've already booked that match for next week. So I don't see a Trick heel turn. But I think Pete Dunne's actions will be the most important ones on Sunday. I don't think Joe Hendry's winning the title. I just don't. And that's where you got to figure out. Is the hand hot enough? Do we go with this? Or do we pull the football away? No, not yet. Hold on. Joe needs more obstacles. Now, Franklin and Nerdy Dude both have they're talking about it here in the chat. Pete grabs Trick's hand to count to 3 with a knockout Trick. That, okay. I never loved that because, how does Ava come out and go that didn't count because the referee's decision can't be final if he's knocked out cold? Does that mean Joe gets another shot or whatever it may be? But Pete Dunne, I think, is the catalyst to all of this. He is the key to this. And to get Joe Hendry maybe a visual pin in the match. Ethan is beat. You're showing him as an arrogant, beatable champion. He won the title by a fluke. Nobody took Oro Mensah seriously, nor should they have. Look where that was placed in the Great American Bash card. That's just once again, I'm not knocking the performer. I'm just saying how they're presented and where they are in the card. But the thing is with Trick going up to Raw, I don't think he's ready. He's over, but he needs to get way more reps. He should be working a lot. There was some lists the other day of who's worked the most matches, and Trick is not in the top 5. And that is baffling to me. Barring an injury, which I don't believe he has, he should be working as much as possible. they're not running as many house shows. He should be working on main event. You should be getting him in the ring as much as you possibly can because he is the next big star to come out of NXT and move to Raw or SmackDown. It's absolutely, it's going to happen, but he's got to be working more. And I don't understand why they're not having him do that. I don't understand that. He's got a lot of character stuff down. He'll still work on that. He's got natural charisma. He's got more charisma than anybody that's in that place every day other than Joe Hendry. It's not even close. He's got the stuff that you need to hit the top of the company. The stuff that you can't teach. He can get better as a wrestler, and I think he will, but he's got to wrestle more. His cage match should be filled. He should be working at least once a week. And I'm surprised he's not. Moving on. They opened the show with Fatal Influence, a.k.a. Toxic Attraction 2.0. It's too close. It doesn't help that JC Jane went out of that group, did the stuff with Chase U, kind of floated around, back into the group. She's back to square one. Good or bad, there was no there's been no progression of where she now stands in NXT. With a newer face and Fallon Henley, who I'm a big fan of. I think there's a lot there. But my goodness, and I know, and I've said this about production and all that, and you can make it look good. That was the most hit-your-marks entrance I have seen. Like it felt like people were, okay, camera 2. And you do the thing. And, okay, camera 1, we're over here now. And you do the thing. Like nothing flowed naturally. It's almost like they worked backwards with this. And I don't mean that in a good way of like, okay, we're going to have this group and this is the entrance. Who do we plug in there? It didn't flow. It felt very stilted. It felt very NXT 2.0. It didn't set themselves apart from Toxic Attraction. Fatal Influence is a very close name anyway. It's just like, hey, let's try this. I mean, let's just do it again. You got good workers in JC and Fallon, sure. Jakar and Lash have just kind of become baby faces. Like, that's just kind of how it's been. I think because people like them. The finish was good. There was a time where I thought Lash was not going to get it. The look was there, all that stuff, but I will tell you, I watched her be dangerous. And I don't put that on her. That's, hey, more work needs to be done. And developmental's on TV. And she was a little rough around the edges, which is, it happens. She is putting it together more. The look is there. There is something there. However, the call of, that's a quadruple dribble, like it sounded straight out of 1993 Superstars. It could not have sounded less cool. Because she plays basketball, so let's make a basketball reference. Like, once again, probably written 4 hours before the show. But Lash has improved. That top rope clothesline thing that Jakar and Lash did, like, she lifted her up, but not on her shoulders, kind of to the side. She hits the clothesline. It wasn't great. She falls into the camera, and I went, there's developmental on television. That's going to happen. This is the most competitive division, and how great. It's got a lot of women, and they're featured. It doesn't make it good. And once again, that's okay. But that stuff happens once or twice a show. You can see the wheels turning because they don't have a ton of experience, because they're not working house shows every weekend. You got to work to get better. I don't care who you are. And if you happen to be working on television, all of your ups and downs and flaws and mistakes, all of it is on full display to anybody who's turning into USA Network on a Tuesday night. You can't hide. You can hide in a house show. Not as easy as it used to be because people have this and they post it there, and then you get the Maxine Dupree situations where they're booing her off a house show performance when she's worked like 20 matches ever. This is on national television. This is on USA Network. This has been the home of WWE pretty much for the last 30 plus years. I honestly don't think it's fair to the women of NXT to promote the brand as the best women's division in wrestling. It's not. It's got the most people in it. It doesn't make it the best. It's kind of a slap in the face to Raw and SmackDown. You're admitting you get called up from NXT. So why is the women's division supposedly better down there? I did notice a little change in the branding of it's the most competitive division. Okay, sure. But it was called that. And there are people on social media that bang that drum. And it does feel like for a lot of people, the standards just aren't as high. And hell, maybe that's over. Maybe it doesn't have to be. Maybe now I sound like the old guy. But sometimes I see, look at blah, 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 Cook, and I watch the clip, and I'm like, this is a 90-second clip, and the move should have been done in 30 seconds. But you can see them working through the spots, which, once again, is fine. I'm not blaming the performers. It's the presentation. It's the hyperbole that is put on them. And some fans are eating that up. So, hey, maybe that is the right way to do it. It just seems unfair to call a division of people who are in developmental the best in wrestling. And I am all for over-promoting. I have said that. I defended Tony Khan for doing that. Vince does that. I did that for years. Hunter does it at the end of every press conference. Over-promote. Go nuts. But don't do so to the detriment of the performers that you're talking about. If Tony Khan says Edge is having one of the best years of his career, Edge might feel that way. Edge might be the most excited he's felt. Mercedes might be one of the biggest signings in company history. That all can be backed up because of the level of performers we're talking about. You can say a WrestleMania match is the biggest of all time if it's Roman and Brock Lesnar. I can at least believe that. But don't tell me it's the best women's division in wrestling when I'm watching people learn on the fly. When I'm watching people take what they learned from earlier that day or their training sessions or their skull sessions, whatever they do, and go put that into action. Don't tell me that when I know they're rehearsing these matches this week for Sunday night. There's a better way to do that. Did you guys know that Eddie Thorpe played the Orlando live event this weekend? Because, my goodness, did we learn about that? I don't know who those people were talking to him, but they went to the finest Orlando acting school to set up what? The Brooks beat down in the background. Oh. And you know what? I say that and I go like, oh, it's training A, B, and C, who we don't know if maybe we'll learn about someday, or maybe they'll pop up on Level Up. And Shawnee's like, hey, I should go to those live events. And it's like, wait, don't you work at NXT? Aren't you kind of supposed to be there? Like you're not going? You show that segment and you immediately follow up with No Quarter Catch Crew, who has one of the most charismatic and natural actresses in NXT in Ren Sinclair, whose charisma comes off the screen, who has made No Quarter Catch Crew a bit more interesting. And to go back-to-back with her versus those trainees we didn't know doing that awful acting, which seems like it should be on a site that you would pay money for. Like, that's the level of acting and story that comes across there. It's that weird NXT world where it's always high school and everybody's always kind of hitting on each other. And then they do the family thing, and you get those weird mob guys, and they're terrible actors. With a group, by the way, who I think has a lot of chemistry. We'll jump to that. No Quarter Catch Crew against the D'Angelo family. Now, the mob the underlings or whoever the hell they are. They're trying to tell Tony, you got to come. We got to talk to you, boss. Hey, boss, there's a thing going on with the guy. And then you got to go. So he comes out for the match, and then immediately they come, Joe, boss, we got to go. What's going on here? We got a match going on. Hey, oh. And the family wins, and okay, sure. This feud has been going on since April. They can't get away from each other. It looks like Tony might be escaping this come this Sunday. No Quarter Catch Crew and the D'Angelo family have been feuding in some way, shape, or form since, from what I could tell, April. When they made somebody who doesn't work there disappear, and all that's like April. Running in circles. The Angelo family went, I will say, they have very good chemistry. It is such a tough thing for me because I think they're all very good. I think they've all made improvements. I think Stacks is going to bump like crazy for somebody on the main roster and be that kind of guy. I think Tony's got good charisma. I like the group. I don't think they fit on Raw or SmackDown. It's a contained NXT universe where you could believe, you can kind of, I can suspend disbelief and kind of be, I could be in on the joke. Oh, they tossed that guy over the bridge, or he's in a trunk now, or what? Okay, sure. You're not selling me on that group being a thing on Raw and SmackDown. It's very hard for a show that's way more based in reality. Even the Wyatt Six, they don't have superpowers. They're not supernatural. They're humans. That's still more believable than me trying to find out that Tony D'Angelo threw, I don't know, Austin Theory into a trunk, and now Austin Theory is sleeping with the fishes. Like, I don't know. And maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe people will buy in. But to me, that comes across more as a comedy thing if it goes to like Raw or SmackDown. Can you imagine Randy Orton selling for that? Just verbally. Or with his facials. Or Cody Rhodes. Or the Judgment Day. Franklin D. Booth. Wyatt Six are the friendly Texas Chainsaw family. They are totally believable, and I love it. Yeah. And also, when they laid people out, we saw it. We saw the evidence. The blood, the Chad, and the bodies. We saw the evidence of it. And Chad came back. They made it seem like he got taken out, and unfortunately, where the blood was, looked like he kind of got shot in the head. He didn't. But they showed the evidence. The D'Angelo family, dumped Pretty Deadly in a river, and then they were on SmackDown 2 weeks later. And once again, running circles in this feud. Now, I'll come back. I'll talk about this here in a sec because Tony gets called away. So I'm sorry, boss. He's at the table. And they have the face-off with him and Oba, which I think they've built well without going way over the top with it. You have somebody who has been a face of NXT for years now, who has gotten better, who is good in his role, which, once again, not taking anything away from the D'Angelo family. And then you have Oba, who probably a step down from Trick, seems like he'll do great once he gets to Raw or SmackDown when he's ready. So you're facing off two of your, bigger names, at least in NXT. You a very established name in Tony and someone who's had a great first year in Oba. There haven't been a lot of direct confrontations between the two. So I do wonder if this is just the first of a few matches with them. And I would think Oba's going to win. I think you got to keep him going. But on paper, knowing both guys feels like a fairly big deal. But they haven't done a lot with it. It's more of been like passing in, they walk in front of each other. The disrespect, if you will. The Jada Parker sit down was a inconsistent character display. She has completely won me over in the last few months. There is a confidence to her. There is a great feeling about, like, you can tell she's confident who she is and how she's talked. I have seen that on display. She has outshined out the mud. She's going to be on her own. There's money in her. And she's been a heel. And now we come to something that NXT has been doing for years. You don't completely explain a change in dynamic or a shift in dynamic. You kind of just let it happen. Big heel turn, or someone's established, well, they're going up against the heel now, so well, who do we want to be the heel? Well, they want Roxanne to be the heel. So they have Sarah do the sit down, and it's the Jada Parker backstory. And much like a million other people there, she played D1 Sports. I never want to hear that origin story ever again in NXT. It's the baseline for NXT. I don't care. I expect all of every. How many tryout stories have they done? Well, we were at the tryout with you, and we didn't like you there. Oh, I tried out at this. I don't like. There's got to be more than I played soccer, or I played football, or I was a D1 this, or like everybody is. It's everyone's origin story because that's how they've recruited. So it doesn't mean anything. I told the Creed brothers this years ago. I don't want to hear that you were, that doesn't stand out to me. Don't tell me that you're working hard and you wrestled and all that stuff at Duke. I said, no, you got to give people something to sink their teeth into. You were a fan? Oh, that probably makes you different than a lot of people you got recruited with. A lot of wrestling fans or WWE fans or fans in general go, oh, they're those NIL athletes. They're only doing it for the check. They don't care about wrestling. When Julius told me, he's like, oh, yeah, I had the Kurt Angle jersey. Show that stuff. Stand out in a different way. If your baby faces connect with the crowd. Jada, for the first 75% of the interview, did a very generic, neutral, without an edge, here's my story. And she was very likely coached to be more baby face-ish because she's going to take Roxanne on, who is a clear heel. But so is Jada. Jada's been a clear heel. I like that they acknowledged, Sarah brings it up. Hey, there was, without saying it, there's a botch in the match. She lands on her. It looked awful. I'm a little banged up. Okay. Now you're telling me somebody, a challenger, who has looked dominating, and she talked about all the matches she's been in and the stuff she did with Meechin, and that stuff was great. That's the kind of stuff that, if they're going to go with you, the kind of matches you should be having. Meechin working with the Jada Parker is going to help Jada Parker. And it's clear that they were trying to position her as a babyface because of who she's going up against, or at least for this match. But they even, the fact that they brought up the fact that she might have gotten hurt, okay, let's get her a little sympathy there. She picked up some fire at the end. But, man, there was a lot of blah, blah, babyface stuff in there that didn't feel like it was her. I liked her line. I'm not a soccer player who became a WWE superstar. I'm a WWE superstar who happened to play soccer. Like, that was good. And Roxanne shows up and she plays that mean girl thing she does, and it is still tough to take her seriously as a heel. She just sounds whiny, and it's her voice. I say this jokingly, but somebody could probably hand her a few packs of Marlboro Reds and see what happens. Don't smoke, kids. But the slap was good. The slap was, oh, that's Jada Parker. That's the person I've seen on TV. That's the person who has established herself as a confident force in the women's division, who's backed it up. And she looks off camera. I heard about you. You can get it next. And Roxanne kind of saw that person was. Now, is it Julia? Is it Stephanie Vaquer? Who knows? And then the line coming out on an interview that was recorded for the show with an NXT broadcaster. This was not NXT Anonymous sneaking in and doing this stuff or us finding out after the fact. It was shot for television. And Vic goes, I wish I was a fly on the wall moments ago. We all were flies on the wall moments ago. They literally showed the interview. It was done for the program. It was done to hype up the feud. We all got to eavesdrop because we weren't eavesdropping. We were there. Why would you be a fly on the wall? It's not a private conversation. NXT cameras didn't peek through a doorway. Oh, what's going on in there? We can only hear if we can only see. It's like when they go to break on a show and you see two people talking on here. What are they talking about? We literally heard everything they said. We were the flies on the wall. The flies had front row seats. It's why the same people keep calling Raw and SmackDown. It's not a mistake. It's why the same people keep calling the show. Wentz and Wes set everybody up with the security and all that stuff. And good back and forth. Wentz a little yelly with his fire, but it's personal. Wes is clearly in more control. As the heel, it makes sense. Wentz is very, fly by the seat of his pants. I'm mad at what you did. Why'd you break us up? Blah, 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 blah. My only thing with this is a very Orlando feud. And by that, I mean, there's a lot of people in that building who know who these guys are because they've wrestled in that building or because they wrestle in TNA. And I know TNA doesn't run Orlando like they used to and all that stuff. But it is a very local feud to me. And I wonder how that translates to the pay-per-view when it's far away from there on Sunday. Will it have the same kind of heat? Will the crowd be as into it? That's my only question. It's a spot to boost Wes up more, and I get that. It's a good use of the partnership, but will an outside Florida crowd be as into it? As you can see, Wes ready to go, Wentz more fired up, more angry. Kalani and Rosemary, nice connection once again. Somebody similar to Wendy. Hey, let's bring in a hired gun. Let's get Kalani ready for another spooky character. And hold on, we have to take care of somebody in the chat because this stuff is just ridiculous. Whew. That's probably overdue. Kalani and Rosemary, the story between the two of them in the match was, okay, can Kalani handle what could be coming her way on Sunday with Wendy, who's spooky and dark and scary? I get it. Nice use of the partnership. Rosemary has a cool look. She's got the blonde hair now, and she's been in TNA forever. I mean, I think that it worked. She wasn't coming in there to win. I think it's a good spot to bring her in as more of a surprise as opposed to establishing her. Will Wendy keep her as a friend? Probably not. Kalani takes care of her, taken out by Wendy. Okay, here's another great example. Much like Meechin and Jada Parker, Wendy Chu, who's probably the most experienced worker in NXT, at least in terms of the females. And if I'm missing somebody, please tell me, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. Taking on somebody they want to go with. a good next feud for Kalani for the North American Championship. I also think it looks kind of cool in a poster. I think Wendy's, there's something to that with that look. I would like to see her get away from the bedtime stuff and the pillow. And I still think this character can work. And maybe that's the evolution of it. And she's smart. I think she can do that. I think I've hit everything. This Brooks Jensen shoot character sucks. It's dead. Everything they tried to do with it, like I say, is dead. All that inside stuff they try to do and the tweets and showing, does anyone care? And he comes out there and he wrestles in mismatched Chuck Taylors. I don't know what it's supposed to be. I know he's got Sean Spears by his side. It just doesn't feel like it's going anywhere, and it doesn't seem like people care. He's like this Brian Pillman, whatever, loose cannon character, except nobody cares about it. Nobody's scared by it. It's not viral. It never was viral. And they should have probably had a better feel of that. If it's not going to work, it ain't like, I don't think you're going to get people to care about it. That dude was most over when he came out to music that he didn't own. One day love will find. If you ever seen that entrance, like Brooks Jensen is like, oh wow, look what great music can do for somebody. And all this stuff after this is just oof. Nerdy dude. Unpopular opinion, but I don't feel like Kalani as champion and she gives me valedictorian vibes when she cuts promos. Yeah, she's not there yet with that. She's not. I have been a fan of her since I saw her on Level Up. I think there's something to that. I think there's a lot to do with her, to what she can be. But that's just somebody who needs reps. And you know what? She does tend to be out there every week. Another great example. Developmental on TV. You can see it in her. She's learning from the right people. She's getting the right, people are handing her the right DVDs. They're giving her the right links on Peacock to watch or YouTube or whatever. It's there. The promo stuff's got to come. But you know what? You put her on commentary. You let her go in the deep end. You have her cut a promo before. Like, you do that kind of stuff. City and local. Am I alone in thinking JC Jane is too good for NXT? I understand that. My question is, where does she fit? Where does she go? What's the spot for her? I think she knows the beats. I think she knows what she needs to do. I think she's comfortable in what she does. I think she's a solid worker. She had indie experience, so she's ahead of most there. But where does that land her? It feels like she's better in a group. I don't think you want to be in the same group twice in NXT. That's probably not a great sign because she's in the same group twice. But it feels like she would be... You put her in the Tiffany and Nia faction. That might be a nice soft landing for her. That's a nice way to get her, her feet wet on Raw or SmackDown. Kiana James, still waiting. She's on the wrestling milk carton right now. So No Mercy this Sunday. Joe and Ethan for the NXT title. Trick's special guest ref. Pete Dunne's going to play a role in that. Roxanne and Jada. Jada seems to be the de facto babyface right now. That would be a fun upset, but I don't think they'll do it. Kalani and Wendy, once again, think, it's still early in Kalani's reign. You probably keep the title on her. Chase U, they had that little segment with Frazier and Axiom. It's the rematch. Is this finally the end for Frazier and Axiom? Are they finally going to pull that trigger? Oba and Tony got a shot to be the match of the night. To me, that is hey, what do we have in these guys? Because they have been consistently pushed. They've been given consistent stories. They have been on the show consistently. Though this is a match of, hey, are we going to see this match down the line? Like, of all the matches here, that might jump out the most of, hey, this might be the first of many times that these two guys wrestle. And then Wes and Wentz I don't think is going to be a long-term thing because Wentz is a TNA guy. Dynamite. We'll start with B-May's question. Do you see the news of Swerve's deal, and how do you feel about guys signing long-term deals? Listen, optics are good everywhere. You take advantage of good news, and you put it out there, and you make it a big deal. And they did that on the day of the show, as they should have. Celebrate the good. That's why Drew McIntyre got a sword on Instagram from The Rock. You make a big deal about that. That's good PR. That's good news. You absolutely magnify that. Great for Swerve. Also, a little bit of a red herring, right? The champ signs a new deal on the day of the biggest pay-per-view in the history of the company, and then he loses. It's good. I'm happy for him. I think he'll tell you it didn't work for him in WWE. I do wonder if it would be a little different, but probably not that much different. And I think Swerve is a far better fit in AEW. And I think Swerve has been able to spread his wings and come into his own in AEW, and is absolutely a credible main eventer. That is what he's grown into. So good to see it. Both companies are doing well, and I can say that, and it's true, even if one makes money, way more money, hand over fist. It doesn't mean AEW is not doing well with money, and that brings us to Dynamite tonight. Tony's tweet about 24 hours ago about it feeling like a dream. Tonight they're in his hometown. It's been a week of big announcements, all in Texas. Forbidden Door in London. Going to Australia next year. Now he's back in his hometown. The company is riding high, coming off a very successful All-In. Top 2 buy rate along with Sting's retirement. 50 to 55,000 tickets sold. Big plans for the future. Football starts next week. They're going to grab a lot of headlines. Isn't this the week? If a deal is done, if a TV deal is signed, sealed, and delivered, isn't tonight the night to announce that if it's done? I certainly feel that way. I think that's the case. We're also going to see the Mariah May Championship celebration. I don't want to see Toni Storm. I think it's better if she's off television for a bit. But Mariah now can be top of the division. And we move on to who's next. I think Thunder Rosa makes a lot of sense. Bryan Danielson addresses his future. Does he open or close the show? That's the thing. Does he open or close it? Or is he the crossover? Do you want to build to that all night? Do you make that a big deal all night? What is Bryan Danielson going to say? Is he done? Is he going to come out and announce his retirement, and then we will see. They're going to have Swerve speak, which I think is all about, as I said, if he lost, I would have him cut a babyface promo about why he did what he did to Bryan Danielson, because he had to. Because it's him and Hangman. We know we're going there. Hangman Ishii tonight. Ooh, that's a hell of a match. Ricochet, Kyle Fletcher. There's your put Ricochet on right there. Here you go. Here's a match with somebody you can work. Go do your thing. Jamie Hayter is going to crush Harley Cameron, and I look forward to that. And then the match that Tony tweeted about saying, trust me, I think it's going to be a good one. Learning Tree and Roddy against Hook, OC, Kyle, and Mark. It's the all-star tag. It feels like there's something more to that. I'm not sure, but it feels like there's something more to that. Let's see. I'm just looking. some of these comments here. Honestly, can't take Tony Khan and his big announcement serious anymore. It's a running joke at this point. Nerdy dude, here's the thing. There was a time where I would understand that, but he said it was going to be a week of big announcements, and they announced 3 massive shows for the company. All in Texas next year. It's 40,000 plus. Forbidden Door in London's a big deal. The show in Australia is a big deal. The announcements have felt big. He just has said we're going to make them. He didn't say when, he didn't say where, and nothing is teased for tonight in that way. I'm just saying it seems to line up well. And I think you want to make an announcement about domestic television on domestic soil. That's the key, and that can happen tonight. Let's hope. Let's hope big is coming. Let's hope bigger and bigger is coming. All right, so tomorrow, as I said, we will not be live, but you're getting a very special retrospective episode of the Wrestling Mat. Tomorrow is the 30-year anniversary of Brett versus Owen for the WWF Championship in the best steel cage match ever at SummerSlam 1994. We're going to talk about the match. We're going to talk about the entire feud. I'm going to break it all down for you, why it's one of my favorite feuds, why it ended up on my WWE application. That is absolutely a thing that happened. I'm going to take you through the whole thing, how it started at Survivor Series 1993, my personal memories of being a 8 and then 9-year-old watching this, how they built this story for a year, and how it is the best and only really good in the ring brother versus brother feud. That is tomorrow's episode in full. On Friday, we'll be back live at 1 Eastern. We'll talk about Dynamite, any news. We'll talk about Bash of Berlin. But for all of you, if you want to become a Matt member, do it right now. Because as soon as we're done, we're going to put the link up. I'm sure it's pinned there. Anybody, we're doing this very special because it's our first full month doing this. If you are a Matt member at any of these levels, you can come watch the Retro Raw we're watching from Germany right as soon as this show is over. It will not be the case all the time. We're changing it up after this. If you're at that, obviously, you see the Matt Camper level, the Matt Event level. But for a lot of people who are at that base level, maybe you got one of those Nerdy Dude subscriptions, memberships, for $4 more, you become a Matt Camper. You get all those perks that you're seeing right there. The member shoutouts, the members-only video, the random episodes of Raw, SmackDown, or Dynamite Live. We watched the Raw a couple weeks ago. And if you're at that Matt Event level and you want to upgrade to $24.99 a month, we're going to follow you on social media. B. May will tell you, as he already commented, had a great time on the 30-minute private Zoom. Someone will get picked to do that every single month. We're doing special watch-alongs with quarterly merchandise. Private pass event watch-along. That, for today, for this month, is for everybody. We are doing that as soon as we're done. We're going to be watching Nerdy Dude picked it, so we're going to do that. Raw from Germany from nearly 30 years ago. I watched the first 30 seconds of it before I took to the air, and I went, oh, this is such a Vince thing. But go check that out. Become a member at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. Tomorrow, the special retrospective episode between Brett and Owen's entire rivalry on the date of the anniversary, 30 years ago. Brett Owen at SummerSlam 1994 in the steel cage. I would tell you to watch that tonight before you watch the retrospective that we're going to do tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that. And then back live on Friday, off of Dynamite. I'll have time to talk about that more. Bash at Berlin preview, SmackDown, any other news that might come down. And by the way, source your news correctly, or you'll make reports that the PC is going to Las Vegas. Oops. That happened as a story, and I'm like, all right, sure. I guess that could be the case. And then a half hour later, it's like, no, that's not what was said. And I guess whatever some town hall was. And multiple people reported that. A Twitter account. The Observer guys. Don't know if it was multiple sourced, I'll tell you that. And then multiple other sites nope, not the case. Evil Diva 1978, thank you for being a member. Welcome. And come join us. And any member right now. Here we go. Have that link ready because we're going to flip over in about 2 minutes. As soon as this goes over, get me a little chance to reset up here. Get this up. I'll give you the heads up right now. You want to be. There's the link. You see it. Okay? Here's what you need to do. You need to navigate wherever you're going to watch this thing. I would tell you to go to Peacock, I guess. It is Season 5, Episode 9 on Peacock of Monday Night Raw. This is what we are going to be watching for the members as soon as we're over here. So fire up whatever you need to. Season 5, Episode 9 is the Raw from Germany. It is a loaded show. Famously, an episode Vince hated, and it allowed Vince Russo to pick up more power. But we are going to be watching that here. This is 3 weeks after Shawn lost his smile. Bulldog and Owen, who are tag champs at the time, face off to become the first European champion. My favorite title in all professional wrestling. So get that loaded up. I'll give you some time cues as we're watching, so you guys can watch along with me. But that is coming up. You see the link right there. You see it. You can join us. I hope you're with us. There's the link. Follow that. I'll fire that up in a matter of minutes. And for everybody else, tomorrow, I'll be back. Brett and Owen, 1994 SummerSlam. That an amazing feud. I'll be back tomorrow to talk about wrestling even more. See you in a couple minutes for the members. See everybody else tomorrow right here at thewrestlingmatchshow.com.